Jane and welcome back. Last week someone asked a question on my YouTube channel about stickers. Now this viewer had prepared their page of stickers in Photoshop, so I assume they're bringing it into Silhouette Studio as one whole image with lots of little images on it that they want to cut out. I did attempt an answer, but it got me thinking, and it also prompted me to do something I've been meaning to do for a year, and that's make my own stickers. Here in front of us is the page of labels I've been using to put on the back of my cards. I've been using these for the past year. I even bought sticker paper probably about 8 months ago to print them on, but I never actually attempted it. I've only printed these either on paper or card and used glue to stick them down. The question last week and the fact that I've got sticker paper finally pushed me to address this issue. It's about time I tackled a different medium from just card. Let's see how I get on. In this video, I'm going to concentrate on a simple set of stickers, and that's the ones in front of us, my label. It's around 2.5 to 2.6 inches in width. It's simply black and white. It does have a small black border around it. If I zoom in, we can have a closer look. You can see I've got like a double border, a thin and a slightly thicker one, and so I want that to cut really nicely on the edge. I know most stickers you may well have a white border around, and with that one doesn't need to be quite so accurate, but I'm going to show you how to do these first. Now this doesn't help so much when it comes to multicolored items for stickers or irregular shapes. However, if we start with the simple things, we can move on to the more complicated later. Let's pop into Photoshop and have a look at my design. It's nothing fancy, just something simple I can put on the back of my cards or anything else that I make. Although I love Photoshop, I wouldn't choose to make my full page layout in this program. I did do it for the purposes of this example, and here it is. And yeah, it's good enough. There's nothing wrong with it, except that I think this will take us longer to produce as stickers than if I do it in Silhouette Studio. And let me explain why. The first problem I have is I can't see the reference points for the registration marks. I know from experience that I've got a black square that will be up on the left, a line over on the right and one in the bottom corner, and that there are hatch marks because I've been using print and cut for a while. But of course I can't see them while I'm in Photoshop, and that means I'm really sort of guessing. Now, I've made a good job of this because, of course, I've already done the layout over here, and so I can basically pinch this idea. But if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't really be that accurate. I did save my Photoshop layout as a JPG. It can be JPG because I don't need a transparent background. I'm not going to be printing on coloured card or anything. Now, of course, when we open it, for some reason, anything I save as a JPG in Photoshop comes out huge. So now I've got to remember what page size I designed on. Well, I know I did it on A4, and my printer is set to A4 over here, so I've got the exact width here. I could cheat and copy that and put it up in this width box here. But before that, I'm going to check my padlock there so that when I enter a width in here, it will change the height to match when I press enter. Now it's disappeared off to the bottom of the screen, so if I press this icon here, it will bring it back and center it on my page. So now I know that that's the same size. Of course, then I'm going to put on my registration marks. You can see that I've done a relatively good job of guesstimating the layout. I'm a little close to the cut lines here when my registration marks are set at the default. If I do change the position inset down to the minimum, I'm within that, and I find that that minimum of 0.394 is what works best in my machine, and so I use that all the time, so that's great, it fits. However, I've got quite a lot of work to do now in putting a cut line around each of these individual boxes. Yes, absolutely, I could do a trace, and I have tried it, and it does a relatively good job. But because I've got that black border around my labels, it does sometimes misread them, and I'm going to end up with little bits of white where I don't want them. And to be honest, that's more work than it needs to be. When it's a simple rectangular design like this, whether you've designed it in Photoshop or some other graphic program, or if you do this within Silhouette itself, it's far quicker to start with the single design and do the layout for the cutting within Silhouette Studio itself. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to close this, we don't need it for now. This is the one that I did before, and let's just open my single design. It comes in, of course, bigger than I want, so I'm going to click it and put in my width here with my padlock checked so that the height will alter accordingly, and I'm going to put 2.5 inches and press enter. I'm just going to take off the grid for the moment and zoom in, because I'm going to do one extra little thing here that will make life a lot easier later. Here's my black border, and I want to make sure that that is black when it cuts. I'm going to put the red line around it. We can't see it, but it's there. And then I'm going to open my offset panel, make it corner, and put a really small 0.005 offset. I'm going to fill it with black, and I'm going to make the line transparent because I don't want this cutting. I don't want to make the label any bigger. And now you can see my red cut line here and my black just going beyond, and that will give me a really nice sharp edge. No extra white suddenly appearing as it's cutting. It's going to be really nice and accurate. And so I'm going to simply select both of those, my image and my extra offset, and group them together. Let's zoom out. And now we're going to fill the page. We're going to put the registration marks on, and you can leave them at the defaults if you wish, at 0.625. I don't always find that they work for me. My Cameo seems to prefer a smaller inset, but let's leave it at that and do this as if you're using the default settings. I always recommend using default until such time as you're more used to your machine anyway. Let's close the offset panel and open our replicate panel. I'm starting with the assumption that you're quite happy to have your labels on one big full sheet of A4 or letter size paper if that's what you're using. and you don't want to cut them out into smaller groups. So let's fill this first page. I'm going to start with column, and I'm going to choose this one, 4, and we can do another 4 and probably another 4, and then I think probably 3, and we won't get another one in the bottom there, I don't think. And then draw around all of those and group, and then do duplicate to the right once. And you can see that whereas in Photoshop I had quite a gap still between them, now these are all really nicely close together. And if I draw around with this tool, so we zoom in, you can, and I'll go in even further, you can see that I've got very minimal space and the cut lines are separated still, but that's going to do a really good job. And I've still got a little bit of space down the sides, so let's, well actually before I do that, let me just duplicate one of these and ungroup. I should have done this sooner because I need one on its own. So let's group these two together and put them in the middle, and then take our single one, hold our shift key and turn the handle so it goes 90 degrees, and bring it into this gap here and do the 3 down. And then we can simply select those, group them and duplicate to the right and take it over to this side. So there you can see how quick it is once you're in Silhouette Studio to fill a full page with stickers or a design. You've got the reference points of the registration marks, you know exactly the space that you need to fill and the way to lay it out. Admittedly it's simple because it's just a rectangular shape, so there's no awkward fiddling. Now let's talk about cut settings. I'll go to my send window, and this is our, of course, our full page, and we'll do it by a line. We've got no colour and we've got red. And the red, it's already remembered what I used last time. It's saying sticker paper white. I want a ratchet blade because that's what I use. And it will give you a default setting at the bottom here. A blade depth of 2, a speed of 8, a force, or if you're in the older version, a thickness of 14, and a pass of 1. I will say that cut settings are always variable. While I can give you an indication of what cut settings might work, you're really going to need to do a test cut on the sticker paper that you have. My Cameo isn't connected to the machine that I do my video recording from. Let me go to a screenshot of the send window on my computer from the kitchen that operates my Cameo, and I can talk through a little bit about how to do the test cut. Here we are with a screenshot of my other computer that operates my Cameo. I can't click anything to show you what it does, so I can only talk you through the settings. This was my first attempt and I did run into a problem. It didn't like the registration marks, but I think that was my own fault because I did my test cut right up in that left hand corner. If you look to the bottom right of this screenshot, you'll see the Cameo 2 status ready and the send button, and to the right of that 4 arrows and a test button. And the test is how you do your test cut. And I did my first one with the default settings that it suggested for sticker paper, except that I dropped my speed to 4. So I did a blade depth of 2, a speed of 4, and I did the force of 14. And I simply clicked test. And that cuts a little square and triangle in the top left-hand corner near that black registration mark. And when I took the mat out and had a look, it had, of course, cut through right through the backing paper too, which is not what I wanted. I only wanted to cut around the labels. I dropped the force to 4, fed my mat in again, and of course I can't do just simply click test again because it will cut in the same place, and that's what those 4 little arrows are for. You can click on them with your mouse and it will move your blade housing to a different position on your page. I clicked the right hand arrow and moved my test cut just to the right of the first one that I did, and that setting worked perfectly well. And so once I knew that that is the setting that worked and only cut through the first layer of paper to give me my labels, I saved that with the name Sticker Paper White Jane, and I knew that that was my setting. I cannot recommend enough that you do a test cut yourself, because although that is the setting that worked for my sticker paper, your brand of sticker paper may be different and it won't necessarily be the same. So do a test cut. My other piece of advice is do the test cut with the paper upside down. So when you first do this, put your stickers upside down on your cutting mat so that it cuts at the bottom right here, which is nowhere near any of your registration marks. And then when you have done your test cuts, you can peel it off your mat and line it up as you would normally for a print and cut and for the registration marks to read. That's how I would do a test cut, and as I've explained and shown, I realised that a force of 14 was going to go through both the sticker paper and its backing, and so I changed it down to 4, and I also put my speed to 4, you'll remember. And when you want to do the overcut, you use the little 3 dots to open the advanced material panel, click line segment overcut, and I used one of 0.2, and I find that that works really well. When you have found some settings that work for the paper that you've got, you can save your material, give it a name that you will remember, and in my list I've got Sticker Paper Jane, and that's the first one that will cut out each of these labels. And I've also got a second one, and I'm going to explain that now. Let me go back to my design window. As I said, I had a little practice yesterday, and I realised as I was messing around with my first page of stickers that didn't go well, that I don't want to keep them on one big sheet like this. They're going to get damaged before I've used them. And it occurred to me that I would be much better with them in little groups of 3 that I then cut out of this big sheet. So I'm going to simply get rid of these for now. I'm going to group them, and I'm going to move them off down here out of the way and show you how I set up the final design of layout that I wanted. I'm going to take 3 of these stickers and bring them over. I'm going to group them together. I'm going to put my grid on for the moment and zoom in by dragging over this shape so that it zooms in quickly. I'm going to line up with a grid here so that I'm just at the corner of one, and then I'm going to draw an extra cut line, one square either side of my sticker group, and something about like that. Doesn't have to be perfect, just something to give a little bit of space around the labels. You will remember that the red line is already set for cutting the label with a speed of 4 and a force of 4, meaning it doesn't go through to the backing paper. Now, of course, this line that I'm doing, I want to cut through everything. I want it to go through the backing paper so that I end up with a little group of 3 labels. To do that, I'm going to change the colour of this line to blue. And then I'm going to group these two together, use my fit to window. I'm going to move this up here and then do the usual replicate. So I think we'll get 3 at least. As my registration marks are on the default setting, I'm not going to get another one in here at the bottom. So just to show you that it can be done, I'm going to move my registration mark down and put an extra one in, group this column together and move it up, and you can see I get 4 on my A4 page. And I can duplicate right, and I've still got some room down the side here, and on the one that I printed yesterday I did put a couple of single labels down the side and kept them as a strip of 3 like before. I don't know if I would do that all the time because they're not as easy to keep together as these nice little group of 3. I might just call this wasted space. So for now I won't bother putting them down the side, and we'll go back to the send window to show you how to set this up to cut. You can of course make the space around your grouping of stickers anything that you like and arrange it any way you like. It's really just for anyone who doesn't want to keep a full page, whether that be 8.5 by 11 or an A4 page of stickers, but wants to make them into something more manageable. Let's go back to the send window, and you can see I've got this blue line now here, and it's still saying sticker paper white. And this time, of course, I'm going to be quite happy if it has a force of 14, because my test cut told me earlier that that will quite happily cut through everything, although I do still probably take the speed down to 4. And indeed, when I did my little group of labels, that is what I did. And when I'd adjusted all my settings to what I knew worked, that's when I gave it the different names. So sticker paper white Jane does the red cut around the actual labels, and I know that only does the first layer of paper. And sticker paper Jane white 2 or sticker paper white Jane 2, that's the one, does anything around a group of stickers if I want to cut the whole piece of paper. That's how I'm going to be printing and cutting my stickers in future. I'm going to come out of my design window now and talk you through my photos of the finished items. You know that I always like to be able to show you, where possible, that what I do on the screen in Silhouette Studio turns out all right when I print and cut it. I always think that if I'm making these videos and saying to you, do this and do that and it will work, that I should show you that it does actually work. So let's go and have a look at my photos of my finished labels. I'll see you shortly. Here's a look at my print and cut stickers as they came out of the Cameo. Bit of a sun glow there, it was a really sunny day yesterday. And I've got some stray pieces. I think I'm getting ready for a new blade. The one I'm using is about 2 years old. But I'm really pleased with how the stickers turned out. Now, when I peeled them from the mat, they did curl up a little bit, but if I put them under something for a while, they'll flatten out easily enough. And I like my little grouping of 3. It's the perfect size for my little hands. That curved edge turned out really useful when I happened to throw my little pile of stickers on the floor. The curving meant that the helping hand picked them up so that they weren't still sitting there when my husband came home. And just to prove that they look all right on the back of a card, here I peeled one off and stuck it down. A little crooked, I have to admit. I'm not always so good with sticking things straight, but I think they look all right. I expect with a bit of practice I will improve my skills with stickers. I hope that this has encouraged you to have your own attempt at stickers, and in the next video I will address the issues of doing more complex images like characters or flowers, or something that's not a straight black and white rectangle. Until I see you for that next video, take care.